Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another replay cast right here on the Alpha X YouTube. My name is Rushi, filling in a little bit of gap here. Happy Katowice, everybody. The World Championship is underway, but we have some wonderful replay casts of these two fine players currently playing at IEM Katowice. It's a replay cast from ESL 108, the Open Cup Europe Edition. This is a best of 5 between these two players, spawning in the top right of Hardwire. It's our blue Terran player for Mouse Esports. This is Heromarine. And in the bottom left, his opponent, the red Zerg for Clash Gaming. This is Reynor. The reigning champion of StarCraft 2 versus the biggest of Gabriels. It's Italy versus Germany in this best of 5. This was a semifinals match in the ESL Open Cup number 108 Europe edition. So, of course, both of these two players are competing on the big stage right now. It's currently Thursday, February 24th. So we've just gotten through Group A and B of the round of 24. Some exciting games today. Of course, no spoilers, no worries. You don't have to immediately get out of here. Rushi, don't spoil everything. I'm watching it all on VODs. All good. No spoilers here, but some great games nonetheless. But of course, this has taken place just a little bit earlier on in the world. It's a nice little best of 5 here, a ZVT. So we're going to get a chance to see these two players in their form leading up to IEM Katowice. It's a bit of a long time for this replay, but I don't think either of these two players are super strange to this matchup in any regard. Will we see something funky? Will we see some straight up macro play? Seems like we're going to get just some straight up macro right now. Heromarine tossing down a factory right after his barracks, getting the Marine out as well, going into a reactor. Nice little bit of exchange here, getting the spore down just in time. The big question for both of these players, is one of these wonderful gentlemen going to be able to create something special at Katowice this year? Only time will tell. By the time this video's up, that time may have already been told. But I don't think that's going to be a major issue in the moment. So we are going to open up game 1 of this best of 5. Nice little standard macro-oriented build for both players. Reynor is going to start pushing creep out here while Heromarine does a little bit of pressure to keep that back as long as humanly possible. It's a 1-1-1 opening here for Heromarine. He is getting the command center on the earliest, one of the earlier paths. Maybe not the earliest, but pretty darn close. So we will see a more expansive approach for the Terran player. Heromarine does his duty to try and scout a little bit of information. Is going to lose that Reaper. But all in all, a very quiet opening between these two players. Neither player really plays in a bombastic sort of way. I mean, we've seen Reynor really channel some more complicated builds, timing-oriented builds, I would say are a specialty. But it's also not uncommon to see him just dial it in and play a nice long-form game. Reynor's going to be able to get the Overlord in. He does get a chance to see the command center, so we'll know that there isn't a lot of concern coming out on the map right now. Liberator, though, is going to make things complicated. Don't see anything across the map just yet, but queen count, ever climbing. 7 queens in total. It's a fair amount of queens, especially queens that are this far out. So creep pushing is going to be taking place, but man, I mean, with that many queens, you would think that those might be in use of something special. But at this point, Heromarine actually not channeling any major Marine production just yet. We will be getting there. A couple of barracks going down, the double engineering bay at the front. And Air is going to see the Liberator come in for the harassment, so that's not going to create too much issue. In fact, a really nicely timed Spore Crawler here going to deal a little bit of damage, trying to whittle this away. Now, Heromarine is trying to keep a lot of attention here at the front. That's actually a lot of Hellions here getting on top of the Queen count. Queens are going to start going down because Reynor's having to micro on a couple of different fronts. He will be able to protect his drone line, but it's going to come at the cost of a decent amount of Queens here. I think 2 have gone down so far, which we're going to get to see that again. That's totally fine. Sometimes it's a guess as to whether or not we have the means of pulling up the battle report. In this case, we can't. It's totally fine. So losing a couple of those Queens for the Hellions, always a fun exchange for the Terran player. Reynor is going to be able to come out of it to supply heavier, but losing access to a lot of Queen energy, also a very important piece of the equation to think about. So 1-1 on the way for both players, +1 melee. Reynor indicating that he wants to stay on just this Queen Ling Bane aggression here. And it's going to be a lot of defending at this point. So Reynor taking his 4th base. That's going to be going up here rather soon. Creep spread is moving out rather efficiently on the map as well. Combat shield now just getting started up. But we are seeing a lot of Zerg players playing this more passive style right now. And I say passive in the sense that Reynor does need to keep a lot of his units back at home. These Hellions are still a strong force to deal with, despite the fact that they don't have a whole lot in the tank in terms of attack damage. It doesn't take very much to dive on in to a mineral line, and now suddenly you're 8 to 10 workers down, and that can be a huge critical error for the Zerg player if it's not well managed. So Lings stay back at home. They're able to get a lot of defense done. It'll keep these Hellions on creep duty rather than killing off mineral lines. So this is going to be one of the first bigger moments of aggression here. 1-1 just about to finish up, and the medevacs are going to be spotted. Great placement of those Spore Crawlers to keep those out of the main base. But now I think this is going to turn into its own little push here. Hellbats are going to be formed in, and this now becomes a bit of a contentious moment. Baneling speed not yet done, and actually all of those units well dealt with here. There will be additional Banelings coming in. Hellbats are taken care of, but it does come at the cost of a decent amount of those Banelings, so it did not come without cost. If you look at the units lost tab right now, it is still rather equalized, all things considered. And this is the kind of passive play that I was referring to here just a few moments ago, having to play a lot of defense to protect against these medevacs, protect against the Hellions. We should be able to harass this medevac down, but it's just a little bit out of position. I think that finally we'll be able to get cleaned up. Oh, will it be able to grab it on the way out? They do. It's a one-way trip for both of those medevacs. So now the harassment on the right-hand side can be fully focused on without being split by Reynor. And suddenly Reynor able to secure his 5th base location. He does work into that Hydra den, so we do have Hydra Tech on the way. Heromarine still trying to work his way through here. Has the 4th command center on the way at the front. So not on site just yet. Look at that income advantage. It does start to take a big jump into Reynor's favor. We do start to see drilling claws on the way. It's a good choice against this large Ling Bane Queen style. And adding the Hydras in is going to be helpful because the Hydras will always outrange those Widow Mines, but a lot of times these armies just come pouring on in, and now Reynor able to utilize his creep to its fullest advantage here, pushes away this aggression, and we will start to see that transition into Hive Tech. Wouldn't be surprised to see a Lurker Den go down as well, and the Zerg late game that Reynor has become so comfortable using is now starting to unfold. So Heromarine seeing the path of aggression going forward, throws down his own response, does pick up a Ghost Academy in a good response here to that Lurker Den all the way around. Upgrade-wise, picking up the extra Carapace early is good, but it does mean that a lot of these ground forces are going to have a difficult time really shoving away the early aggression of Heromarine. So Hydras are going to be more required in helping deal with these medevacs, which isn't terrible. I mean, those are going to always be a part of it. But knowing that Lingbane is not going to be quite good enough in the short term to help deal with these large bio forces, at least enough for Reynor to have to dedicate more of his aggression here. Ooh, Hydras are actually going to pull really far forward. The bio is going to redirect on the right-hand side, so a few of those Hydras go down for not a whole lot else, but Heromarine is playing with a very razor-thin wire. Now, 3-3 immediately started up here for the Blue Terran player. Reynor does have his 2-2. Only now getting his +3 Carapace on the way, but +1 missile. The choice for the Italian Zerg. And for what it's worth, Reynor has not spent a whole lot of time moving across the map here. He's gotten out to the center a couple of times, but in terms of harassment, in terms of damage dealt on the opposite side of the map, we haven't seen a whole lot here, but the army starting to build up. Reynor, supply max at this point. 104 in the army supply. Heromarine has a little bit of ceiling left and not a whole lot else, but also sitting at that 115 army supply. Both players spending rather well. Overall, this is starting to come to a head here for the Zerg player. He's going to need to start finding a way to maximize the army count that he has going here. It's a very good stutter step. A couple of those Banelings do finally connect with the bio. And I think now Reynor's time to strike has been hoisted upon him. There really isn't that much here. Where is all of the supply? I mean, the ghosts are now finally starting to come out. Oh, a couple of units here going to get sniped off in that medevac. This ends up being a little bit better of an engagement. Reynor's going to have to go back, but what ended up actually taking place here? Okay, the Widowmine does soften things up, but only has 1 kill. So now it's going to be Ghosts starting to put in just a little bit of work. Right now we're seeing kind of the expectation of what Heromarine might be looking for into this engagement, where Reynor is starting to bleed off some of those more inexpensive units, but it does cost him economy over time. Mines starting to get placed around, great scouting tools, but also little pockets of damage here and there to try and draw a little bit of fire. Great splitting of those Zerglings, avoiding the damage. The second one couldn't be so good. A little bit of carnage tears things up here for the Zerg player. But where are we headed? I mean, we haven't really made a huge transition. It's just been a lot of Lings, Banes, and Hydras. We haven't even seen a large amount of Lurkers. Have we seen any Lurkers? No, we've seen 0 at this point. So the Lurker upgrades have been researched, but we just haven't made that transition into the Lurker tech just yet. I see Reynor here moving out to that 3 o'clock base. He is trying to take bases as quickly as he can secure them. But it should only be a matter of time before we see the Zerg player move into the later stages here. He will be able to get on top of some of these exposed ghosts. The bio not quite where it needs to be to help defend, so a few of those ghosts are going to go down. But Reynor does fall a little bit on the supply count. 177 to 160. Well, I guess 182 to 167. It's easy to lose track of that if I don't say those numbers just quick enough. It's like, wait a minute, those have drastically changed in the last 4 seconds. Now we're finally going to start seeing the Lurkers come out here. 12 Lurkers on the way. Concussive shells for those Marauders, trying to add a little bit more bulk to this army to help soak up damage for these ghosts. And concussive shells are going to make that even better, slowing down the units trying to come in. But now it comes to the question of the response to these Lurkers. Lurkers are now finally going to be able to make their way over to the opposite side of the map. With them being fully upgraded, it is time for aggression for the Zerg player. Heromarine has done a very, very good job of keeping Reynor on his heels. Reynor's been playing rather passive for the last 14 minutes, but it seems like it's the Zerg player's time to strike. Lurkers are going to be able to start sieging up that third base. It's actually a pretty decent position, all things considered, especially with a nice little hit squad on the right-hand side. Heromarine is now going to get a little bit of a taste of his own medicine. But look at this, Nidus Worms coming on the way here. So it's going to be a lot of attack aggression, but it's all a fake. All the lurkers are still towards the front of the army right now. Where is that Nidus Worm? It is located there, so there is going to be a little bit that comes out, but all in all, this is just going to be pulling the army of Heromarine out away from the front. I love this gambit here. Heromarine has to respond to it some way, shape, or form, or all of a sudden a whole bunch of units are just going to come popping out, and that's actually going to be the case right now. Even just a few of these lurkers go a long way. The third base has been evacuated here for Heromarine, and now this army being forced to fight on multiple fronts. Double Nidus Worm will continue to cause chaos for the Terran player. 9 workers have gone down as a result. And the third base has been roughly evacuated, so it's going to take a little bit of time to get this base situated. The orbital command didn't go down in the end, so not a horrible position for Heromarine at this moment. But he does have to find a way to stabilize. Taking a little bit of time to get this base resecured once again, but even just getting the Sim City is going to be really important to hold this down, because otherwise Reynor's not going to be stopped from just kind of pushing on in here. We do have lurkers in the Nidus network once again, but Reynor comes pushing on up, and it is just back and forth aggression. Ling Bane on one side, lurkers on the opposite side. Where does Heromarine decide to go? He's going to lose a lot of these workers off the head. 27 have gone down. The base is going to fall here at the third base location. Lurkers will eventually be dealt with. That is a lot of ghosts. That is so many ghosts. +3 actually just now finishing up, so that melee attack will be helpful, but it's matching the 3-3 of his opponent, and it is just constant chaos across the map, trying to stop the bleeding in any possible way here. 41 workers in total have gone down at this point, and despite the fact that there is still a large unit and material deficit between these two players, Reynor is maximizing as much as he possibly can here. He's going to be able to get around the workers. Can this base end up falling? I think it will. There's just too much DPS here. It is going to come at the cost of these units. And what is Reynor going to have in response back at home? It's more Nidus networks. It's more lurkers. But the army is just going to push across the map. I think Heromarine has realized that I can't continue to keep trying to fight you back at home. That just means that you are going to gain bigger advantages here. So this army is going to come fighting for its life. Baneling's going to get on top of these ghosts, and actually really good connections here. Those ghosts do end up going down in larger quantities than maybe Heromarine was expecting to get at this current moment. But Reynor now going to try and strike giant Baneling shots, getting on top of so many of these units. How many of these ghosts have gone down? 16 in total. The units are going to be able to get around. Zergling's able to isolate ghosts, and that is never going to be an exchange that the Terran player is going to want to see. So Reynor capitalizing on a vulnerable moment here for Heromarine. 148 to 107. Heromarine is kind of broke here. He has plenty of gas. Both players rocking the gas count. Reynor has just a little bit more mineral mining at his disposal, but the space is going to have to be evacuated once again. Lurkers coming out as well. I mean, this is a reasonable position here for the Zerg player, all things considered. Despite the fact that the army count is a little bit in the favor of the Terran player. I mean, 19 workers, it's hard to dance around. Especially when you are going to have a lot of lurkers to try and deal with. I love the in and out here, taking away the targeting from the ghost. It's a brilliant play here. Very, very clever play by the Zerg player. We're down to 3 ghosts at this point. That is a low, scary number for Heromarine. He is going to have to back off and leave, but now the lurker count is going to start growing once again. It's 10 lurkers in total. Some good mine coverage here, softening up this army, not finding any kills just yet. Baneling's able to connect on a few more of this small bioforce, but 170 to 107. That is a telling tale here. That is going to be difficult to defend against, and this base is going to have to be evacuated. Yeah, I mean, just even pulling workers off the line is enough for Reynor. He doesn't need to sacrifice the army. And now the Nidus Worm, once again, going to start causing chaos. Lurkers in high enough supply here to deal tremendous damage to this Bioforce. Heromarine going to try and stem forward, finding the damage that he can, but Reynor has done enough. He's able to bully down his opponent. 19 minutes. And all it took was 5 minutes of aggression here for Reynor to claim a Game 1 victory. Game number 2 here takes us to Curious Minds. Reynor with a nice follow-up to all of the aggression of Heromarine. Game number 1 does secure himself the first win of the series. And usually you would say that that might bring out more of the same in terms of direction for game number 2, but Reynor decides to go for a 16 pool. So this is gonna be some really interesting aggression timing here. And spawning pool goes down at a pretty unique timing, all things considered, but Lings are gonna be able to be across the map. That could even open up a 3 Roach timing as well. Kind of depends on where he wants to go with his initial aggression. So drones are going to get pulled onto gas, and here comes the Roach Warren. So gas is just going to be for roaches at this point. Now, this is something that's kind of a high risk, medium reward, honestly. I mean, Heromarine going to have the opportunity to scout this. This is not going to be a difficult scout. There's going to be a lot for Heromarine to process here. So he's going to see the early Lings. He should be able to outmaneuver the Lings. He's now going to see the delayed hatchery, but this is actually, I think, a bit more interesting. Heromarine not going to dive up into the main. He's not going to necessarily know what's following up with this. I think he can make some safe assessments just based on the Marine count, or not the Marine count, but the Zergling count, rather. This might go in the direction of roaches. But I think a Reaper is going to be very instrumental in trying to help find out that information. But Reynor with some very, very advantageous positioning here. Going to be able to intercept the Reaper with his Zerglings. And this Reaper is going to find nothing new for information. Now, meanwhile, back at home, there's going to be a factory after the barracks. And he just keeps the command center going, which this is not a bad choice. I mean, given the information that he has, he can very easily take care of that information. And if for some reason he doesn't need to lift the command center, that's totally fine. Having the extra base is really, really important here. But here comes the Roach Rush. There is going to be a Ravager alongside this. There is no speed, so those Zerglings are going to take a little bit of time to get to the opposite side of the map. A bunker going to go down on the high ground. Heromarine is going to be perfectly prepared for this push that is coming. A Cyclone going to be an instrumental part of this defense as well. Should be able to do a nice job of eliminating Overlord vision, as that's going to be the important part of this push here for Reynor, is that high ground vision to be able to damage the supply depot, break down the wall. In fact, that's actually going to get very, very low. It looks as if that's just going to go down. Heromarine accepting that as a loss right now. We do now finally see the Cyclone. Cyclone is going to have an opportunity. Locks onto the Zergling. Not quite sure that's what Heromarine was looking for. But what kind of information is Heromarine going to be able to try and keep track of? He does have a Reaper on the opposite side of the map. Could try and do some of his own harassment if he wanted to. Now going to start targeting down some of these roaches. The Overlord has been pushed back, so as long as that Cyclone is able to dance back and forth, should be able to find some decent damage. Heromarine is going to see that extension to a third base. So I think, yeah, he finds an opportunity where he might be able to hold this down at the top of his ramp. In fact, he's going to feel so confident to lower the orbital command once again. I do actually kind of like this because it pulls Reynor to the opposite side of the map. He's not going to be able to retreat these units, and now suddenly 8 Marines. This army's going to be so slow to get back to the opposite side of the map. So this base is going to get canceled almost immediately here, I think, even despite not having Stimpack. Oh, the great pull here. Should be able to grab a queen if he's careful about it. One queen does end up going down, and now suddenly Heromarine is going to be able to command the tempo on the opposite side of the map. Meanwhile, it's going to be Banshee Cloak on the opposite side. This is a great position for the German Terran right now. Heromarine should be feeling very, very confident. So confident, in fact. Third base is going to go down, but these Marines are not finished. They have more work to do. A few of them have gone down, so some of them not finding all of the damage they possibly could, but Ling Speed has now finished up. This is not a wall. Oh, I mean, this is like terrifyingly close to sure death. Okay, now we finally see a supply depot go down. I think Reynor gave Heromarine a little bit of the benefit of the doubt. Felt as if he was maybe baiting Reynor into maybe tank fire. I mean, there's no tanks to be found. Only now is the reactor going down, but that's not going to allow for tank production. More than likely going to see either Widow Mines or Hellions at this point. But now we start to see the bio transition here. Heromarine in a really strong position, has third base already on the field. Reynor just now getting his third base underway. So despite the fact that Reynor has a 90-73 advantage on supply, I don't know that that is going to last too terribly long, especially not if Heromarine can make this work with the double Banshee. What kind of detection exists? We do have Spore Crawler. Do we have a lair? There is a lair. Okay. So there will be Overseers. Yep, one coming in right now. This is a lot of pretty decent damage. And she does get a little bit on the low side. 4 of those workers do end up going down, but that slows down Reynor just by enough to be substantial damage at this point in the game. It's a lot of Lings coming across the map, but I think Heromarine has kind of weathered the initial storm in such a way that he avoided a lot of major damage, kind of keeping the loss counter rather even. So all in all, Reynor getting out to his 4th base location, starting to try and make a roach transition here. Is going to grab Glial Reconstitution, +1 missile, as well as +1 carapace. So doubling down on the queens and the roaches here. So Reynor going to stay a little less mobile overall. It's going to have Lings, but I don't think it's going to be quite to the same extent that we saw in game number 1. I think Heromarine going to have a moment where he might be able to jump on top of his opponent. And +1, just now finishing up weapons and armor. So that Bioforce is going to be a bit on the stronger side. Banshees all repaired up and juiced up, ready to go. We'll start finding some additional damage across the map. They do pick off the unit holding the Zelnaga tower, so instead of trying to come across and be sneaky and cloaked, we'll take the opportunity to scan and clear up some creep spread. But I mean, this creep spread is a bit far forward here. Kind of a scary position, all things considered. Going up to Hive as well. Reynor getting up to a Hive on 74 workers, especially with the trajectory that he had in the early onsets of the game. It's a very bold play from the Zerg player. Heromarine going to try and find additional damage. There is no Spore Crawler at that base, so these units are going to be able to deal a lot of damage before one Banshee does end up inevitably falling. 7 drones, plus a handful more at different point in the game. I think that will all be negated here if Reynor is allowed to get his own worker damage done across the map. Workers do get pulled. Additional units getting killed as well. This base is actually near extinction. That is going to get picked off. That 4th base is going to have to be evacuated. But what is it being evacuated into? A flurry of bullets. As Heromarine able to capitalize on Reynor's weakness here. The transition into the late game, not going to happen for the Italian Stallion. And Heromarine muscles his way into a Game 2 victory, tying up the series 1-1. Game number 3 takes us to Glittering Ashes here. All tied up in this best of 5 between Heromarine and Reynor. Only one of them is going to be able to advance onward to the grand finals of the ESL Open Cup EU edition number 108. In game number 3, it's going to start a little bit more subdued. Reynor trying to pull a fast one over on the Terran player. Heromarine with a powerful defense and the ability to jump on top of Reynor's transition, not allowing him to try and capitalize on some of the greed that he took advantage of in game number 2. Evens up the series for him. Now, Heromarine is still working on his own greed on the opposite side of the map, taking advantage of a command center in the earlier onsets, pre-3-minute 1-1-1 as a response. So Heromarine feeling confident with that build order, wanting to stick to his guns, literally, in game number 3. Glittering Ashes, though, kind of a fun map for ZVT. I think the Zerg player can feel really confident going into this game. Neither player really having to worry about match point just yet, but you have to wonder if that is lingering in the backs of their brains. Starting to get a little bit further in the pick order. I mean, best of 5. Some of the less desirable maps do slip their way through. You always have to wonder if this series may go to a game number 5 and create more of a complicated situation for one of the players, depending on how the picks and bans did end up going. Now, despite all of that information, Overlord is going to be able to get in, seize that third command center once again. And the queen count will continue to climb as a result. Liberator, as a follow-up to the Viking, still going to be a great way for Heromarine to get across the map and harass. That third command center currently being used to produce additional workers. So once Heromarine is ready to move that base out, there will be a better saturation to come and accompany it. But right now, I mean, just kind of focusing on the overall his worker count in his natural. So the double engineering bay going to go down. Extra gas on top of it. Will just be pretty standard bio once again. So Heromarine working to find more harassment tools with this army. But I think Reynor's going to maybe be a little bit more protective of his creep going forward, especially in this game. Some really nice chokes here at the ramp that will prevent Heromarine from being able to just squat on top of those creep tumors. Now, I mean, this is a good way to play things out here. Good coverage by the Spore Crawler here for Reynor, not allowing Heromarine the opportunity to get settled in. That's going to allow for these queens to actually find some decent damage. But now it's multiple pieces of damage in multiple different locations. I think this, yeah, Liberator finally does get bullied off. It did manage to pick off one worker, but really needs to find much more than that in order to create a better situation for himself. I mean, this is just relentless protection by Reynor, protecting both his creep tumors as much as possible and keeping his queens alive and keeping the Liberator off of those units. Reynor was a bit in this position before. Great Reaper Mine to push this queen back. Can he defend it? He does. Reynor keeps that queen alive, burns off a couple of transfuses, so not a completely poor situation here for Heromarine as long as he's able to get away with a majority of his units, which at this point he is able to take care of. Only lost one Hellion. Does lose the Viking, though. The queen's able to pick that off. And then once again, this is starting to look a little bit like game number 1, where Heromarine was able to control a lot of that tempo early on in the game. And it seems as if Heromarine working on maintaining that throughout the later stretches of this game number 3. So right now, Bio going to start working away on the creep on the right-hand side, but Heromarine ever the multitasker. ready to rock and roll here with the Hellions on the top left corner. Both players getting +1 at about the same time here. Going to finish up +1 melee. I love this change here into Hellbats. Hellbats have to do a better job trying to avoid those Banelings. They do get softened up here, but here comes the Bioforce to try and reinforce. This is ending up being a little bit better spread here for Heromarine. Now those Banelings will be able to start working away on the lower end units. But will they be able to protect against the Marines on the opposite side? They will, at least at this point. It's going to be a pretty big dive into the main base, but Reynor, once again, he knows where Heromarine wants to park his units. He's doing a wonderful job of keeping those Spore Crawlers underway. Heromarine being very diligent, trying to drop in multiple different locations, keeping pressure on multiple sides of the map. But Reynor is doing his part to keep things alive and rolling for right now. Hydrotech is on the way, so Reynor will start making a transition once again into that Lurker Lingbane aggression at the end. Huge Baneling shot here, and there's exactly one Baneling as well. I don't know, that one mine is still alive. It is going to get uprooted here and saved, at least for now. Nice little back and forth action between these two players. Heromarine still trying to work away at that fourth base. He should have some indication that there is no workers out here right now, so that is holding Reynor back. But Reynor kept 91 workers at this point, 91 to 70. That fourth base over here on the right-hand side has already been fully saturated here. Third base, main and the natural are still working pretty well as well. Okay, a little bit better targeting here on these Banelings, and now suddenly all of these Zerglings are not able to body block for the Queens and the Banes. So as long as Heromarine able to stutter step and do a bit of micro, we'll be able to start working this out, but not able to find that damage just yet. So all of a sudden we start seeing another army marching across the map. Look at this creep spread pushing forward here. I mean, this creep has to be pushed back. Heromarine can't afford to not scan for that at this current moment. Infestation Pit's going to go down as a result, so we will start seeing that march towards Hive. Once again, Hydra, Ling, Bane, Queen into Lurker Hydra. Choice champion. Heromarine, though, unfazed, working out his own Liberator count, trying to, once again, target down all of these Banelings. He's going to be able to get a decent enough split here. Does get some pretty decent splits with his army in the top left-hand corner. So more Banelings will be able to consume that army. Getting a stop on that sixth base location, very, very crucial here for Heromarine. He's trying to slow down his opponent in any possible way. I think he is starting to discover a bit of the squishy underbelly here in the right-hand side of the map. So all in all, trying to force more issue here. 3 o'clock sector. Finally have Hive Tech on the way. Do have a Lurker Den as well, so Reynor will be finding his way up into that Lurker Hydroling Bane composition. That worked out well for him in game number 1. Well, those Medivacs actually taking a lot of free damage here by that Spore Crawler. I mean, this Spore Crawler was a bit of a hero there for a moment. Mines trying to find some connections, and Reynor going to strike on the opposite side of the map. There's a lot of Banelings there in a pretty tight choke for Heromarine, but I think finally Reynor does pull back just a little bit, trying to find moments of weakness. I mean, this creep spread is so far forward. I mean, this is the ramp. This is the ramp into the natural and the third base location of Heromarine, and Reynor is just knocking with his creep spread already. What a powerful position here for the Zerg player. Now, Heromarine is trying to leverage a little bit of an advantage of his own. His Ghost Academy just now finishing up. Does need to find a bit of a position to play from here. Avoids a bit of a concerning surround, but nice splits there, holding things back. He does have a sizable bioforce here that can now push forward. It's a large amount of queens and hydras, and now we are going to start seeing that lurker count brought in to effect. +3, just about to finish up that +3 infantry armor. Not going to be as available. One base does end up falling as a result here. But now we will see lurker tech being researched. I think once these lurkers are allowed to finish, this is going to be a difficult position for Heromarine to try and play into, even though he has Liberator. Now, the supply doesn't lie here. 120 to 102 on the army count side is going to be a bit of a moment here that Heromarine can try and capitalize into. But I think Reynor is trying to do his due diligence to slow down this army from rotating and being able to reposition to multiple different locations. Lurkers being placed on multiple different angles. Army finally trying to clean up some of the creep that came really far forward. Rescue a little bit of his property back at this point. He's finding that increasingly difficult. He's going to try and capitalize on the lower lurker numbers here at this location, but this is starting to look like a little bit of a rough situation here for Heromarine. He's going to have to pick up and zip off if he doesn't want to lose everything. So now that we see that +2 all completed, lurker range being researched as well, these liberators doing a nice job of holding this choke down, but I think the problem at hand is going to be these banelings getting on top of a large chunk of the worker economy there, taking down 7 workers. But trying to find a way to avoid the overwhelming sensation that Reynor trying to bring in here. He is going to try and strike as well. A couple of these buildings do end up getting lifted off. Is there going to be an answer for these lurkers? No, the lurkers obliterate a giant chunk of Heromarine's armies, and now Reynor, maxed out, is going to be able to overwhelm. It doesn't matter that ghosts are a part of this army composition here. There's just too much Reynor. Too much of the time. Lurkers are going to come in from the high side here. This army's going to bully its way up the natural. Now suddenly the production of Heromarine is going to be under fire. And what does Heromarine have as a response? He's got damaged workers. He has a broken economy. And Reynor is able to reset the score here. 2-1 in this best of 5. Reynor goes up match point in this best of 5 ZVT. Game number 4, Heromarine. Down 1, needs to win 2 in a row if he wants to advance on to the grand finals of the ESL Open Cup EU edition number 108. And he's choosing to go reactor first on Berlingrad. No Reaper. No Reaper, no harassment across the map, less scouting information. It's all interesting choices. And that's turning into a bit of a more decisive build here in game number 4. I mean, Heromarine feels as if maybe his back's against the wall, wants to try and pop something out, and he's gonna do 3 barracks. How many times have we seen the Korean Terrans pull this out? This is good stuff. So it's gonna be a lot of Marines. I mean, all of these overlords gonna have to like shake in their floating boots here. So the command center is still gonna come down, but this is gonna be very, very detailed aggression from the beginning here for Heromarine. So we will more than likely see Stim Pack. So Tech Lab's gonna be coming down. Wouldn't be surprised to see an additional reactor come in to play. But I think also this comes with a second Tech Lab. And then you just push out Stim Pack and Combat Shield with your gas. Yeah, that's exactly going to be the case here. So second Tech Lab going to come out. We will get Combat Shield. This is going to be very, very dedicated aggression. So now it's 3x3 on the Marines. The Marines go marching 3x3, hurrah. I don't think that's DMCA-able, but we take no chances. All right. Do like this. Reynor, though, not really too concerned. He is keeping his Overlord back at home. There's no vision up in the main base. That third gas is going to be taken. I think at this point, maybe Reynor has to assume that something is coming, especially with the fact that there's no Reaper. That could be a huge telling sign, but it seems like Reynor now going to try and rely on a little bit more relevant information. We do have an engineering bay going down, just one. We will now see that at the front of the wall. I think Reynor is going to have at least a little bit of an idea what might be working his way. Exactly going to be the case here. Baneling Nest has come down as a response. There will be additional queens brought in to help push the creep out, and I think this is actually a smart choice from the Italian Zerg. Being able to push the creep forward is going to help out in being able to get around to this Bioforce, and now suddenly, I mean, this is a full scout of information that's coming. Combat Shield, Stim Pack going to finish up almost identically at the same time. Banelings are not out yet here. We do have a Baneling Nest. Do we have any Banelings? No. This is a precarious position here, but some very, very good stutter step here. Going to try and eliminate some of these ground forces. One queen does end up going down, but a second Stim Pack is going to be very, very detrimental to this army. It is a one-way trip for a lot of these Marines. They are either successful or they live in humility for the rest of their days. They're going to be able to pick off a decent amount of queens, but this was nowhere near the kind of damage that needed to take place for Heromarine. All of these Marines are going to get overwhelmed, and suddenly now, 5 queens? I mean, that's a decent amount of damage. But look at the supplies, 79 to 65. Reynor on top of the defense there. Didn't even need the Banelings. Just a decent amount of patience. So I think Reynor does need to find a way to capitalize on the moment at hand here, because 5 queens is not insignificant. Losing out on a decent amount of the transfuse energy, the creep tumor energy, the inject energy is going to be noticeable over time. I think Reynor can actually just kind of settle in and get himself to a position where he could just kind of push his opponent down. He's getting centrifugal hooks on his Banelings, so those are going to be able to roll just a little bit faster. Getting 1-1 on his units. Picking up a 4th base. I mean, he's got to be feeling extra comfortable right now, because he knows that the 3rd base has been delayed as a result of it. And I mean, not even thinking about that specific information. I mean, Zergling parked right here at the typical 3rd base location. So now the second time around, here comes another batch of Marines, and look at this. Banelings going to be in high enough supply this time around, and with centrifugal hooks, these are going to be Banelings that should be able to find their target. A tank getting brought in, though. This is a little bit better composition on top of the fact that there are a couple of medevacs here, so maybe Reynor has to play a little bit more thoughtfully here at this engagement. Trying to get on top of the tank is going to be all of these units. Ling's going to come in from the right-hand side as well, and this is a nice little hold here for Reynor. Right now, 113 to 111. So Reynor should be trying to capitalize on a bit of an economic advantage here going forward. That 3rd base still not down for Heromarine. I think every second that this base isn't there, that's one moment for Reynor. One more moment for Reynor to really, really capitalize. But Reynor's going to know exactly when this base goes down. Zergling did the job that it was hired to do. These medevacs going to rotate forward. Gosh, look at this creep spread. This creep spread is just wild. Wild and crazy. Queen's going to be able to jump on top of that medevac. That's a huge pickoff here. Getting the transfuse as well. What a moment. What a moment for the Zerg player. So now Reynor should be able to capitalize on a much stronger economy here, having that 4th base, having a few more workers, despite the fact that mules exist. Should be feeling A-okay. If you look at the units lost tab, well within the margin of error for trading out units. Reynor in a pretty strong position here. The armory only now getting started up here, so that means it's going to be a bit of a delay on 2-2 for this army, but Heromarine actually losing a few of those units as well. This is starting to feel like a very, very complicating matter for the Terran player. Now, Devil Liberator is going to be helpful here as well, but Reynor going to try and still get on top of this bio force, has a decent amount of units to make that happen. Queens are going to be able to take care of the Liberators. It's a better position here for the third player. Now we finally see 2-2 getting started. It is a bit late. I'm starting to wonder if that's even going to be a problem in this case. This is going to be a very exposed mineral line here. Baneling's going to try and connect onto these SCVs. They're going to find a little bit of damage. Do need to check out what's happening here. Decent amount of unit coverage, protecting all of the units attacking on the opposite side of the map. This tank's going to get picked off here. Queen should be able to help defend with the help of these Lings and Banes. And this is just pure chaos in the main base. This army's going to get pushed back, picked off. Reynor not going to mess with the early aggression. The 3 barracks, not enough. And Reynor able to advance 3-1 over his Terran opponent, Heromarine.